I still remember the soft clinking of the dishes that evening. The air felt warm, but not in a comforting way. It felt heavy, almost like it was carrying a secret. I sat at the long wooden table my husband built many years ago. Everyone was there: my son, my daughter-in-law, my two grandchildren. All smiling politely, talking quietly, passing the bread basket around as if everything was normal. But something inside me whispered that this dinner was different. It felt too quiet, too careful. Like the calm that settles before a storm. I held my hands together on my lap, feeling the soft wrinkles against my skirt, and tried to listen to the rhythm of the room. I did not know that this would be the last dinner we had as a family. I did not know they had made a decision about my future, one they believed was best for me. I did not know they had prepared their words, arranged their reasons, and come together with a plan. All I knew was that my heart felt uneasy. And when my daughter-in-law finally looked up from her plate and said, "Mom, we need to talk after dinner," I smiled instead of crying. Because grandmothers learn, over a long lifetime, that sometimes the quietest nights carry the loudest turns in our stories. My name is Rose. But everyone calls me Grandma Rose now, and honestly, I like it that way. The name feels warm. It feels like a soft blanket wrapped around a life full of memories. I am 74 years old. I have lived a long, full life, one with joys and losses, laughter and tears, mistakes and lessons. Most of my days, I spend tending to my small garden, reading my old books, or sitting by the window with a warm cup of tea. My knees do not work like they used to, and my hands shake a little when I'm tired. But I still feel strong inside. After my husband, Henry, passed away almost 9 years ago, the house felt too big. The walls echoed. The rooms felt like they were waiting for footsteps that no longer walked through them. So when my son, Daniel, asked me to move in with his family, I agreed. Not because I needed help, but because I did not want to be alone. Daniel was always a good boy. Quiet, gentle, and responsible. He was the kind of child who helped me with groceries without being asked. And the kind of man who stayed by my side during Henry's last days. When he married Emily, I felt relieved. She was organized and smart. And she loved Daniel with her whole heart. She liked things neat and efficient, and sometimes that made her a little strict. But I never blamed her for it. Their children, Grace and Oliver, brought a second wave of meaning into my life. Grace is 16 now, tall and always drawing in her sketchbook. Oliver is 12, full of questions and sunlight. I love them both more than they will ever know. I tried to help around the house. I cooked dinner most evenings. I folded laundry. I watered plants. I ironed school uniforms. I tried to make my presence helpful, not burdensome. But as months turned into years, I started noticing little things that made my heart sink, just a little. Sometimes I heard Emily sigh when she saw me in the kitchen. Sometimes Daniel seemed tired when I asked for help opening a jar. Sometimes the children looked overwhelmed when I asked them to show me how their gadgets worked. Nothing dramatic. Just small moments. Small signs. A softness turning into strain. I tried to ignore it. I told myself every family goes through adjustments. I told myself I was imagining things. But deep down, I think older people feel certain changes before they are spoken. Just like we can sense when rain is coming even on a clear day. Still, every morning, I woke up early and made pancakes for the children. Every afternoon, I brewed tea for myself and Emily. Every evening, I washed the dishes as the rest of the family watched television in the living room. Life felt steady. Ordinary. Safe. Until the evening of that final dinner. That whole week had felt unusual. I noticed that the children kept glancing at each other whenever I entered a room. Daniel was quieter than usual, and Emily kept her voice gentle in a way that did not feel natural. It was the same voice nurses use when they tell you news that they hope won't break you too much. On Monday, I heard Daniel and Emily speaking in the hallway late at night. Their voices were low, almost whispers. I could not hear the words, but I recognized the rhythm. The soft rise and fall of a difficult conversation. On Wednesday, Emily asked if I had everything I needed twice in the same day. It was kind, but it felt rehearsed. like she had put reminders in her phone. By Friday morning, the air felt thick, like the whole house was holding its breath. And I found myself holding mine too. That evening, I made my special chicken pot pie for dinner. The one Henry loved. The one that always made the children smile. I cooked it slower than usual, taking my time with each step, because something in me wanted to savor the piece. As I pulled it out of the oven, the warm smell filled the kitchen, wrapping the room in memories. I set the table carefully, forks on the left, knives on the right, napkins folded like small triangles. I even lit a candle, though I could not tell you why. Perhaps I wanted to feel calm. Perhaps I wanted the moment to feel gentle, no matter what was coming. We ate quietly. Too quietly. Grace kept moving her peas around her plate. Oliver kept drinking water even though his glass was barely empty. Daniel kept clearing his throat. And Emily kept smiling a tight, polite smile that did not reach her eyes. At one point, Emily asked the children about school, but their answers were quick and short, as if they wanted the conversation to be over before it even began. When dessert was done, Emily took a slow breath and placed her napkin on the table. "Mom," she said softly, "we need to talk after dinner." And that was the moment everything inside me sank. Not in fear. Not in anger. But in understanding. The kind of understanding that comes from living a long life. The kind that arrives quietly, like a bird landing on a windowsill. I looked at her and nodded. "All right, dear," I said with a smile. Not because I felt brave, but because I did not want anyone to feel guilty. I excused myself to wash the dishes as they all waited in the living room. As I stood at the sink, my hands in warm water, I tried to steady my breath. I stared at the last plate, white ceramic with a small chip at the edge. I found myself wondering if this plate would still be here once I was gone. After I cleaned everything, I dried my hands and made my way to the living room. They were all sitting together, Daniel and Emily on the couch, the children on the rug. There was an empty armchair waiting for me. I sat down slowly. My knees ached, but the ache in my chest felt heavier. Daniel looked at Emily. Emily looked at Daniel. And then Daniel cleared his throat. "Mom, we've been talking. And we love you. You know we do." I nodded gently, folding my hands together. "But we think it's time for you to move into a senior living community." There it was. The truth. Softly spoken, kindly delivered, but still sharp enough to slice through the quiet of the room. I took a breath. Held it. Let it out slowly. "I see," I whispered. Emily leaned forward, her voice calm, practiced, careful. "It's not safe for you here alone during the day," she said. "And we worry. You slipped last month, remember? And the doctor said." "Yes," I said gently. "I remember." Grace's eyes were glassy. Oliver stared at his hands. "We found a nice place," Daniel said quickly, as if he wanted to lessen the blow. "It's beautiful, Mom. Truly. They have gardens, activities, a dining hall, a nurse on site. You'll be taken care of." I nodded again, listening. I did not interrupt. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I wanted them to say everything they needed to. "You'll love it," Emily added softly. Love it. Such a hopeful phrase. Such a heavy expectation. I looked at their faces, my son, who wanted to be responsible. My daughter-in-law, who wanted everything organized and safe. My grandchildren, who wanted to understand but were too young to know how. And there I was. A grandmother. A mother. A guest in the home I had lived in for years. Finally, I smiled. "All right," I said. "If that's what you all think is best." Daniel looked relieved. Emily exhaled. The children sat quietly. And that was when I truly felt the first crack inside my heart. Not anger. Not resentment. Just a quiet sadness. The kind that comes when you realize that love sometimes decides things for you, even when your heart was not ready. Moving day came faster than I expected. Life has a way of rushing forward once a decision is made, like a river that has found its direction. The week passed in a blur. Emily organized my belongings neatly into boxes. She labeled them with small sticky notes: clothes, books, keepsakes. She moved through my room with a calm determination, taking each item in her hands as if checking whether it belonged in the new chapter of my life. Daniel avoided my room, I think because it made him emotional. He helped with the heavier boxes, but he did not linger. Whenever our eyes met, he smiled gently, but the smile held a sadness he could not hide. The children came into my room each night. Grace sat on my bed sketching quietly as I folded my clothes. Oliver asked me stories about when their father was young. I answered each question with a slow, careful tenderness, wanting to freeze the moments before they slipped away. My belongings did not fill many boxes. I had never been the kind of person who collected too many things. Most of what I wanted to hold on to lived in my memory, not in my hands. The night before the move felt long. I sat by the window, staring at the moonlight touching the garden outside. The roses looked peaceful. Still. Almost asleep. I wondered how long it would take for them to forget my touch. In the morning, the house was bustling. Daniel carried boxes to the car. Emily checked her list twice. Grace hugged me longer than usual. Oliver stayed close to me, holding onto my sleeve. When the last box was in the trunk, we all stood by the doorway. Daniel placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You're going to be happy there, Mom," he said softly. I smiled. It was the smile grandmothers learn, the kind that hides sadness so the children do not see it. "I know," I whispered. We drove in silence. The sun was bright, but everything inside me felt gray. The senior living community was clean and quiet. A fountain stood in the middle of a garden path. The building was painted beige, with white windows and a small porch. A kind woman named Ruth greeted us at the entrance. Her voice was warm. Her smile was sincere. She showed me my room, a small space with a bed, a dresser, a chair by the window, and a shelf for photographs. "It's lovely," I said politely. Daniel looked relieved again. Emily nodded approvingly. The children looked around cautiously. We unpacked slowly. Emily made the bed neatly. Daniel hung a painting I had brought with me, one Henry had painted many years ago. Grace placed a small sketch of a sunflower on my nightstand. Oliver arranged my books on the shelf. When everything was set, Daniel cleared his throat. "We should let you rest, Mom." I nodded. He hugged me tightly. Emily hugged me gently. The children hugged me all at once. When they stepped back, I smiled at them. "I'll be all right," I said softly. "Go on now." They walked toward the door. Daniel glanced back once. Just once. And then they were gone. I listened as their footsteps faded down the hallway. I listened as the front door opened and closed. I listened as their car engine started in the distance. Then the silence came. A heavy, steady silence. The kind that presses down on your chest, reminding you that you are alone. I sat on the bed and folded my hands. My room looked neat and tidy. Everything in its place. Nothing out of order. And yet, everything inside me felt scattered. That night, I cried softly into my pillow. Not because anyone had hurt me. Not because they did not love me. But because I finally understood the truth. Love had made a decision for me. But love had not asked me what I felt. Love had assumed. Love had planned. Love had moved forward. But I had not been ready. Not yet. The next morning, I woke up early and sat by the window. Sunlight warmed my face. A small bird hopped on the grass below, pecking at the ground. Life was moving on without hesitation. I spent the first week trying to adjust. The staff were kind. The residents were gentle. There were activities: knitting, painting, reading groups. Every day had a schedule, and every schedule had a rhythm. But something in me felt out of place. Like a puzzle piece that fits but does not belong. One afternoon, as I was watering a small potted plant by my window, I heard a knock on the door. "Come in," I said softly. It was Grace. She ran into the room and hugged me tightly. "Grandma," she whispered. "I miss you." I held her close, stroking her hair gently. "I miss you too, darling." A moment later, Daniel and Emily entered. Emily held a bag with fresh clothes. Daniel had a worried look on his face. "Mom," he said carefully, "are you settling in?" I smiled. "I'm trying." He nodded, but his eyes searched my face. Emily stepped forward, her voice soft. "If you ever need anything at all, you call us, okay?" "I know, dear." We talked for a while. The children showed me pictures they drew. Emily asked if I liked the food. Daniel asked if I was sleeping well. And then they left again. That night, as I sat by the window, I realized something. It wasn't the room that felt strange. It wasn't the schedule. It wasn't the building. It was the distance. The distance between me and the life I had been part of for years. A distance made not by miles, but by decisions. And the turning point came one quiet evening about a month later. I received a small envelope under my door. No name written on it. Just a simple folded note inside. It said, "Grandma, Dad didn't want to tell you, but they were planning to ask you to move for months. Mom thought you were becoming a burden. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to find out this way. I love you. Grace." My hand trembled as I held the note. Not from anger. Not from betrayal. But from a sadness I had never felt so deeply before. I folded the note carefully, placed it in my drawer, and sat quietly on the edge of my bed. That was the moment everything inside me changed. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a sudden burst of emotion. But gently. Quietly. Like a soft crack running through glass, not enough to shatter it, but enough to change it forever. I realized then that I needed to make a decision of my own. A decision for myself. Something I had not done in a very long time. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I had not felt in months. I packed my small bag, just a few clothes, my books, and Henry's painting. I walked down the hallway and asked to speak with the director of the community, a kind woman named Ruth. We sat in her office, a room filled with soft light and gentle colors. "Ruth," I said calmly, "I would like to check out." She looked surprised. "Is something wrong, Rose?" I smiled. "No, dear. Nothing is wrong. I just need to choose something for myself now." She nodded slowly, understanding more than my words said. I arranged for a taxi and left the community with quiet steps. The sky was bright, the air cool. But I did not go back to Daniel's house. I did not want to disrupt their lives. I did not want to arrive with bags and decisions they did not expect. Instead, I went to a small town nearby, a place with a cozy cottage for rent. A place with trees, quiet streets, and a tiny market. I rented the cottage with the little savings I had. It was small, yes, but it was mine. For the first time in a long time, I made tea for myself. I opened windows where I wanted. I arranged furniture how I liked. I placed Henry's painting above the small fireplace. And I sat quietly, feeling a peaceful ache in my heart. Later that week, I called Daniel. "Mom," he said, worried. "Where are you?" "I'm safe," I said gently. "And I'm happy. I just needed a place where I could make my own choices." He was silent. Then he cried softly. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know you felt this way." "I know, sweetheart," I whispered. "I know." We talked for a long time. Not as mother and child, but as two people trying to understand each other. By the end of the call, something between us felt lighter. Not fixed. Not perfect. But honest. Now, I sit by my window in this little cottage. I watch the birds hop along the fence. I listen to the rustle of leaves. And I smile at the simple peace of this new life. I still visit my family. They visit me too. But now, we meet with gentleness. With truth. With understanding. I learned something important through all of this. Love is not about making decisions for someone. Love is about listening. Asking. Understanding. And giving them room to be themselves even when they grow old. I do not blame my family. I know they meant well. I know they worried. But I also know that sometimes, the quietest decisions we make in our own hearts are the ones that save us. The last dinner with my family changed everything. But it also gave me a chance to find myself again. To choose my own path. To live with dignity and peace. And now, when I close my eyes at night, I feel something I had not felt in a long time. I feel at home.